Good morning, and welcome to the latest installment of the ABCs of Cumberland County History. My name is Joseph David Cress, history and education reporter for the Sentinel newspaper in Carlisle. Aside from being a journalist, I am a published author. Today my focus is on the letter S. S as in Schimmel, Wilhelm Schimmel. His story is one of the chapters in my 2012 book, Wicked Carlisle, The Dark Side of the Cumberland Valley. A nonfiction, true crime book, it touched on the vile side of Carlisle, its criminal element, through 13 chapters of trauma and temptation, trickery and tantrums, spanning almost 200 years. In Schimmel, anger and artistry came together in a big ugly frame, topped by thinning hair and wrapped in a rumpled up jacket. A lonely old man with a sad, droopy face. He was a mean drunk when intoxicated, but relatively harmless when sober. What made him famous in the annals of local history were his wood carvings. Behind me is an exhibit of his work on display in the second floor museum of the Cumberland County Historical Society. In life, Schimmel was a penniless barfly, a regular at Carlisle taverns where he traded his wood carvings for pints of whiskey. A fixture in the downtown, he would carry around a basket full of his carvings to sell on Carlisle streets for 10 cents or a quarter. A restless spirit, he wandered the countryside between Newburgh and Carlisle. Always he had with him his trusty penknife, along with one or more blocks of pine wood salvaged from barn raisings, sawmills, and carpentry shops. While in many ways he led a charmed life, Schimmel never sought out fame or status. He was more interested in booze. In mid-May 1890, Schimmel took sick and was transported to the county poorhouse, where he died of stomach cancer 3 months later, on August 3rd, at the reported age of 73. His body was buried 3 days later in an unmarked grave on what is now the campus of the Claremont Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Middlesex Township. The man is dead, but his legacy lives on. Today, Schimmel carvings grace the halls of fine museums worldwide and can sell for thousands of dollars at auction. Schimmel is regarded as an important figure in American wood carving. Historians estimate that Schimmel carved between 1,000 and 1,500 pieces, of which about 300 to 400 exist today. Most of his work consists of birds and animal figures, such as eagles, roosters, dogs, squirrels, and parrots. Schimmel was especially fond of eagles, patterning them after the European Habsburgian design instead of the American bald eagle. Nearly 100 of his eagles survive today, ranging from pocket size to those having a wingspan of over 2 feet. No one really knows the details of his life before he showed up in Cumberland County just after the Civil War. There was speculation that Schimmel had left his native Germany heartbroken over the death of his wife, or on the run as a fugitive from military service, an unhappy love affair, or charges of murder. Whatever his motives, Schimmel kept them secret and made very few friends. His rowdy behavior when drunk became the stuff of local legend. Let me give you some examples. On May 7th, 1869, Schimmel walked into the office of the Delancey and Shrum lumber yard in Carlisle. He was highly intoxicated and covered in mud. Just as he was about to relax on a chair, management ordered Schimmel to take a seat on a bench. As Shrum went upstairs to attend to business, John Goodyear ordered the old carver to leave. Well now, that did not sit well with rowdy old Schimmel. A fight ensued, during which the German broke apart furniture with a club, tried to overturn a red-hot stove, and pelted both employees and the lumberyard office with stones. Though it took some time, the old man was finally apprehended. Schimmel later pled guilty to assault and served a year in the Cumberland County Jail. Fast forward almost 14 years to February 14th, 1883. Schimmel entered the Mansion House Hotel at the corner of West High and South Pitt Streets in Carlisle. There, the old drunk parked himself on a chair and dozed off. He was awakened by the owner, who asked him to leave, but rather than comply, the old carver assaulted people around him. As police were being called to the scene, Schimmel left the building, but was observed minutes later calmly walking down North Hanover Street on his way to a local bar. He resisted arrest and served 10 days in jail, before once again being released. Just 6 months later, on August 1st, 1883, Schimmel got into an argument with a fellow German while waiting for the evening train at the Cumberland Valley Railroad station next to the Mansion House Hotel. What started as a verbal exchange soon turned into a full-blown cane fight between two grumpy old men. No one really knows what started the fight, but a local newspaper labeled Schimmel the aggressor. Then there was the time the old carver was his own worst enemy. On May 21st, 1882, Schimmel was a passenger on the westbound train from Carlisle. The train blew its whistle to alert passengers that it was 1 mile from the station at Greeson. But Schimmel thought that he had arrived at his destination. Drunk, he walked out of the car and off the platform as the train was running at full speed near Kerrsville. Schimmel was later rescued from the tracks and transported to the county poorhouse for medical treatment. When not in jail or the poorhouse, he was roaming the countryside along the Conowgwinnett Creek. Schimmel stayed with families of German descent, including the Greeters, who operated a grist mill along what is now Creek Road near the village of Plainfield in West Pennsboro Township. Schimmel would sit for hours by a covered bridge, singing songs in his native German as he carved figures from pine blocks. A strange man, he attracted neighborhood children, so intrigued by what he was doing that many tried to imitate his craft. One boy named Aaron Muntz became so good, his carvings are nearly as sought after as his mentors. Schimmel developed such a bond with these families that some of the parents trusted him to babysit their children while they were in town running errands. Schimmel would stay for a few days to a week at a time with the Hensel family of Newburgh, Hopewell Township. They had what was called the bummer room in a summer kitchen loft, which they made available to tramps in exchange for a day's labor. One night in 1884, Schimmel challenged John Hensel Jr. by saying, "If you kiss the hired girl, I will make you something." Sure enough, the boy, who was 4 or 5 at the time, climbed into the girl's lap and gave her a kiss. Schimmel kept his promise and carved one of his signature eagles for the young lad. This concludes my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be returning in mid-October with another installment of the ABCs of Cumberland County history. Thank you and have a good day.